If you want to thrive in today's marketplace, you need to adapt, innovate, and get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Welcome to the Practice Aligner podcast, where we share the latest hacks and best practices so you can acquire more patients and grow a profitable business. If you want to get there faster, visit practicealigner.com. I'm your host, Luis Trevino, and let's dive into today's show. What's going on, everybody? We're back with another episode. Billy and Luis, what is going on?
Hey. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Hopefully everybody has had an awesome last 2 weeks. Today we're going to be talking about something that Billy is super passionate about. And I'm not so much. And me, not so much.
You just wait till I get you started.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I like, okay, once I start doing it, it's fine. But like getting to do it is just like, it's like working out. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
But super important for the health of your business. So today we're going to be talking about finances specifically.
Yes. So we want to know how knowing your financials can be a roadmap to success. It can be a roadmap to actually grow your business. Mm-hmm. And I am very passionate about this because it is a way to really look at your business in a black and white world. Mm-hmm. It's not about like, oh, I feel like this month didn't do so well, or I feel I didn't get as many clients, or I feel like I spent a little bit more. No. Did you or did you not? Here are the numbers.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we do is like a typical like entrepreneur personality type. It's like, you know, obviously you're all about like starting a business and, you know, you develop a product and then you start selling it and you start growing your business and all that stuff. But then it's like we forget about the most important fundamental things, which is accounting and your finances, right? And sometimes you get really into just the day-to-day of what you're doing. You're providing a service, you're managing people, you're putting out fires, you're trying to solve problems before they happen. That you forget about, hey man, like how much money did we spend last month?
Yes.
like, okay, what's going on? Like our revenue's great, but you know, all of a sudden where are all these expenses? What are all these expenses? You know what I mean? Like, and then you don't even know what's going on. And then if multiple people have your credit card, let's say staff members are like, what is this? You know, like, and sometimes you just ignore it because you're like, man, like, I don't even want to deal with that right now. And you brush it aside, you put it on the back burner because like, it's going to be stressful dealing with it.
Right.
And I think that's something that we all go through and we all face as business people. But
we do.
I think right now, considering the times that we're in a potential recession or we're in a recession, whatever, having a thorough understanding of what your financials are for your business, and not just your business, your personal life too. I mean, you know,
we talked about this in our last episode about how to, you know, face an upcoming crisis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And so check that episode out if you haven't listened to it yet. And we briefly talked about that today. We're going to expand on it. And so, you know, obviously having more clarity on that is just going to help you feel a lot more secure about whatever happens.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think that's huge. But it is, I think, critical in any stage that you're at of your business journey, whether you are just starting or you've been in business for years and years. Mm-hmm. It always happens. Like, and sometimes we just have to be reminded of that. Mm-hmm. And I think it's happened to us too. I mean, even me, that I like these kind of things, and I am a geek when it comes to data. I also get pulled into the day-to-day, and it's hard to look back. So understanding how you can leverage the data to grow your business, to go through a time of crisis, to make wise decisions moving forward. Mm-hmm. I think it's something that we all need to do in a consistent and sustainable basis.
Yeah, I feel like it's something that like just needs to be scheduled.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, hey, it's on the schedule. You're going to do it regardless about how you feel, which is a little hack. So definitely consider doing that if it's something that you struggle with already.
Yes. I love that. And we and try to keep it like kind of like exercise. I love that example because it is huge. We know we need to do it, but sometimes you just get sucked into that day to day and then you forget, but you just feel so good afterwards.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I think, you know, part of the example that I've seen is that working with different practices, doesn't matter what stage of business you're in. You might be a newer business. You might just be starting.
Yeah.
You might be relatively new, or you might have been in business for a very long time. And I feel like we've had conversations with even businesses that have been around for a very long time. We asked them like, okay, so how much revenue did you do last month? Or what was your profit margin, expenses? How much does it cost you to provide this service? You know, how much does it cost you to generate a patient? They have no clue. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, roughly around like, Yeah.
Or they start making up numbers and you're like, what? Like, that's not...
And then it just doesn't, like they say one thing, but then they kind of contradict themselves. And then it's just like, wait, what?
So I think the first thing that we need to do as business owner is that we are people. So it's okay. Mm-hmm. If you don't know that answer, it's okay. But let's, try to do something about it. So in this episode, we want to go through some of the numbers that you should really be paying attention to. How can you keep that sustainable? And how really this will help you understand your business better. And also just how can you, start setting goals for your business, how you can course correct where needed.
Yeah. I think I love that because the course correct and the setting goals, it's like if you don't know your numbers, like if you don't know how you can get to whatever your goal might be. I want to make $1 million this year. I want to have a $3 million, $5 million practice, whatever it might be. If you don't have your numbers worked out and you kind of, do the math and work backwards to figure out how you can currently do that, it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like you have to know your numbers and
there's no measurable way of like knowing if you're making any progress.
100%. So let's go into it. Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. So some of the main numbers, and of course, like you can expand on these in so many ways, right? And it also depends on the type of business that you're in, how many services you're providing, how big you are, how long you've been in business. But I think all of us should know our overhead, which can be divided into your fixed costs and like your fixed expenses and then your variable expenses, right?
For sure.
Things that kind of like vary month by month. And that also might all include like fees, interest, ad spend. It might just depend on those things that fluctuate.
Like if you have a cost of good sold, right? So like you provide a service, but you providing that service, there's a cost associated to that. So the more you provide the service, then the higher the cost will be. So that's one of your variable costs right there. And that's something to take a look at too.
Yeah, definitely. You also want to know, of course, like your salary, right? So especially because this one is something that is very fixed, right? You know that month by month, no matter how much you sold, you have to pay your staff.
For sure. You have to pay your staff. You have to pay, electricity, water, all that stuff. Like there's some variable to that, but I think for the most part, you can pretty much get the average. You know what I mean? But salary is a big one, and then like rent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like rent is another big one too.
Or all of your softwares, all of like all
your
of those
leases,
memberships.
If you have technology
insurance.
that you're, insurance. Yeah, those are all internet.
Very important. Also, you want to know what is your monthly reoccurring, right? And so I know that with the businesses that we work with, might not always be something that is reoccurring. So it does change month by month. So we always tell our clients that in order to make any decision moving forward, you need to have at least 3 months of data with this. So if you're barely starting, of course, you're barely starting into gathering that data. But if you've already been in business for a while, I would definitely encourage for you to go back and kind of start seeing those trends. And the reason with that is we are going to start seeing those trends. So depending on the industry that you're in, it might also depend, like you are going to see like a different trend on during the seasons of the year, right?
Sure.
And so you do need to know that because then you can make better decisions on your service. So for example, for dentists and orthos, you might see that like during the summer, because kids are out of school, you might get like more people coming into your practice versus the time of the month where they're in school, right?
For sure.
And for med spas, you can also see that, your lasers, or because during the summer kids are out of school, then moms are taking them to somewhere else, to the dentist, instead of them getting a treatment done.
For sure.
So
Are they going on vacation?
Are they going on vacation, So you want to know those trends, right? And so you want to make sure that you're keeping data in a way, at least for us, for business owners, we want to make sure that we can see this on a bird's eye view and be able to see them quickly, right? Of course, like I said, you can expand into all of these, so you can click on them and go into the weeds of things, but at least have something that you know, in order to make decisions, I want to see all of this in a one page.
For sure. And it's easier if you have monthly recurring revenue, and that way, you know, yeah, I already know how much revenue we'll be making every month. That's great. If you currently don't have a way, like if you don't currently have a method to have monthly recurring revenue, I would strongly encourage you to build one. There's multiple ways that you can do that.
Yes.
And I think for, you know, some of these, I think we might already have an episode on that. So definitely go and check that out. And then if you are a business where your revenue is changing, you know, fluctuating every single month because, you know, it's just fixed on how many widgets you sell, right? In this case, then you want to get an average. And that's why Billy was saying, you look back your 3 months and if you've been in business for an entire year, then I would say you look at every quarter, right? And you see how every quarter, what is the average between the different quarters? And you can then start making predictions as to how the next few quarters will go.
Yeah, and that is a great way to now understand how you can maximize your profitability, your cash flow. Where are you leaving opportunities there? Where are you spending more than you should? When did you not cancel that membership that you've been meaning to cancel for the last year? So
subscription
or whatever, right? So you want to make sure that you know your data on a day-to-day. Now, the question that I get asked a lot, and I wanted to know your opinion on this, is how often should a business owner really sit down and know their numbers?
I'm disrupting your regular programming to do a quick plug. Now, one of the levers that you can pull that will exponentially grow your practice is the art of getting people to say yes to treatment. And one of the ways that you can facilitate this is through having the right financing methods and partners in your practice. So we have done a lot of research and we have found 4 of the best financing methods that you need to implement in your practice to easily get more patients to say yes to treatment. It is our patient financing cheat sheet. If you would like to acquire this cheat sheet, it is 100% for free. Go ahead and click on the link here in the show notes so you can get that cheat sheet today and you can start implementing these methods in your practice so you can get more people saying yes to treatment. Thank you, and let's go back to the show.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I've heard different people say like, yeah, I look at my numbers every day. You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
And so I think if you can do that, then by all means, that's great, right? And it's like basically reports that are being, there's a technical word for this, but I can't recall at the time, but it's actually like reports that are sent to you versus reports that you have to go and pull out, right? And so I think if you have, like, it depends on what stage you're at in your business. If you're already at a stage where you're not in the day-to-day and you are pretty much overseeing everything, then maybe looking at your numbers every day makes sense, right? It depends on, like, if you have a business that moves fast, right? If you have a business that moves fast, then you need to then be fast too, right?
Yeah.
If you are, still in the day-to-day and, things are moving a little bit slower for you, then that's when I'll say maybe you just want to look at it every other week or maybe just once a month, right? But I think if it's something that you keep, I think that if you have a goal in mind and you know what the numbers that you need to be hitting to reach that goal, then it's something that you would probably want to look at every single week, because you understand that if you're not hitting this goal and you miss that goal in the first week, then you need to do something. You need to implement a solution so you can course correct. And then now you have 3 more weeks so that you can hit that goal. Right. But if you're like, it's kind of like what gets tracked gets managed, right? Am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
I think that's the phrasing, right? Or what gets measured gets managed, right? I think that's the correct way of, of how it goes, because the M&M. But I mean, it's just one of those things that if you don't keep your finger on the pulse, then nobody else will.
Yeah.
Right. And if you don't have a plan, then
huge.
you're going to fall
That
into
hit
someone
home.
else's plan. Right. Yeah. You know,
Right here.
yeah. If you fail to plan, somebody else will plan for you. Right. And so,
Yeah.
I think that's just going to be like really important. It just depends on like where you're at with your business, you know?
And I feel like that's huge. And I was going to say too, like, as long as you keep it sustainable, right? Because you have to understand, like, if you do have a goal that you are trying to pursue, then like Luis is saying, of course, it makes total sense to be looking at it on a more consistent basis. Now, if your goal is maybe like in the span of a year, like at the end of the year, I want to get into this, you do have to keep it at least in a monthly basis.
Yeah.
Right.
I think a factor to that too is just how aggressive or how ambitious is your goal.
How fast do you want to get there? So that is really good. Now, another question that I get asked a lot is, how can you, like, what do you utilize to keep track of everything? I mean, there are so many softwares out there. There are so many things to keep track of. As a business owner, how do you keep track of everything?
Well, yeah, I mean, like you said, there's multiple softwares out there, but I think if you speak to any accountant, they're going to tell you QuickBooks. Most likely, I think it's just the most common platform available to have thorough books and accounting and
Keep track of everything.
Yeah, keep track of everything.
Yeah.
But I know there's other specific softwares that are more geared towards the industry, depending on, you know, whatever that is that you can ultimately leverage. We use QuickBooks. We love it. I've used it for years. I used it when I was a solopreneur and just still doing it myself. And I use it now that we're a way bigger business and we have an accountant that does it for us now. Right.
Yeah.
And so I would just love, you know, QuickBooks.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, like if it makes sense to your business, like, because sometimes like QuickBooks can be very complex. And so if you want some things that are like pretty fast, I know that there's also a way to kind of like get that into some sort of like a Google sheet. So you can see just like the bare minimum numbers that you're looking for. Or you can actually now like customize your QuickBooks too, right? Like your main page, so you can see the numbers that you're looking for. So I think too, like, it just depends what you feel comfortable with, but get comfortable with it. Get comfortable with the software that you're using, and seeing it like on a daily, weekly, monthly basis will just be part of that workflow.
Yeah, I think one that is probably a good idea to keep track daily is your credit card. Because especially if you are in a business where you have multiple credit cards and maybe you have staff members that have a credit card or just business partners that have one.
Yeah.
And again, that's one of the things that it's really easy to spend money, right? We all love spending money. And so at the end of the day, it's like, those are one of the things that you need to keep a check on.
Yeah.
And because, like, you know, those expenses just start creeping up.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, they're like, what is going on? Like, where's all this money? Like, we made a ton of money this month, but like, why does my bank account not reflect that?
Yeah. Yes. One of the numbers that I love to kind of see like almost on a daily is like our profit margin, right? So really knowing like where we're at. So we definitely have like these ranges of like, whenever we're down to a certain percentage, then it's like, okay, we need to do something. Like either we need to cut an expense or make sure we're adding more revenue, profit into like these factors, but we need to do something because the numbers start to not add up, right?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think profit margin is one of the biggest numbers that a lot of people just tend to not focus on as much. And we think that that's a huge mistake. and we've been guilty of that too. Like, you know, everybody loves being able to say, oh, we did $1 million this month, or, you know, like, we're an X figure business, and that's great and all, but there's all these complexities. As you start making more money, you'll notice that there's all these complexities that are involved in making that amount of money. And at the end of the day, those complexities usually mean that your expenses are higher. And so your profit margin isn't that great, right? Like I would much rather have an agent, I would much rather have a business that is not as complex, one, and maybe we're not making a ton of revenue, but our profit margin is 50, 60%, 80%, 70%. You know what I mean? Like, and like, it's like, what's your take home? Because at the end of the day, that's what truly matters. And that's the thing that is going to put you in a better position, right? Because if you're really trying to be smart about building a business that is going to be around for a long time, you need to focus on your profit margin. And if it's going to weather the storm, like let's just say things, get even worse, right? Then at that point, you having a thorough understanding of what your expenses are, what your average revenue is, and then that you have, hey man, all I need to do is make 20K to cover my expenses, and everything else above that is profit margin. And that's going to give you a whole new sense of security.
Oh, yes.
Because you know that now, like, you have cash on hand and you can leverage that cash to do whatever it is that you want, right? And so at the end of the day, those are things that you need to do that. And those are the things that you need to do. And that will definitely help you course correct. Because again, like you then having these numbers will help you make better decisions as to, we're spending way too much money on this service that doesn't even really generate that much revenue. Or maybe we need to let some people go. Like, this person is just, at this point, it doesn't really make sense, to have this person on because they're not bringing in X amount of revenue, or we're just not getting any clients for that service, right? Whatever it might be, then we need to make some change. We need to let go of this. We need to sell this technology. Hey, you know what? We had this machine that hasn't really produced any revenue for us. And I don't know how long. Doesn't make sense for me to have it. Maybe I just need to go sell it, or, figure out a way to get some money off of it, sooner than later, right?
Yeah.
But those are all things that if you're not looking at your numbers, your financials,
you wouldn't be able to come to that conclusion. Yeah. And it's a great way to just finding solution to different problems that you don't even know you have until you start seeing them, right?
For sure.
So I hope you found this episode valuable. Definitely, it is a great way to have a roadmap to success, a roadmap to growth, a roadmap to just pretty much finding solutions to whatever your business is currently going through. So if you like this episode, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you liked to watch them, we are on YouTube, don't forget. But if you are more of an audio person, then we're in every single podcast platform. So make sure to check it out there, subscribe, let us know what you want to see, and make sure to be part of our Facebook group. We would love to have you there. Comment below if you already have a great way of keeping track of your numbers and you want to give...
What software do you use? That's a good question.
Exactly. What software do you use? How often do you see your numbers? And what are the 3 main numbers that you like to make sure to see on the daily? We would love to know.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you all next time.
Bye-bye.